Here we go, getting started. Jumbo, Jude, Tin, Yevanda, Jumba, Yanda, Tobe, Sangere, Padon, Shelter, Temba, the water, Jete, Jambo, Give, Kalu, Yupa, Tempa, Hadam, Menum, Jumbo, Sange, Jumde, Yava, Shaya, Upa, Chata, Todo, Yazu, Leishin Sheba Rajumba Yanda Baran Zobe Sangye Ribadan Shatu Demba Devara Sheba Jede Kiwo Duin Palun Yubo Lanyam Demba Adun Yen Demba Sangye Jumde Pejewa Janya Duba Jade Loja Loja Jade Rajumba Yanda Barazobe Sangye Ribada Shatu Demba Devara Sheba Jede Kiwo Dube Kalu Juba Lana Demba Lana Menake Demba Sangye Jumden Peyewa Jaya Duba Shatu Chudu Jazu Kante Kane So Jadang Sajen Lo Gomba Tese Jevo Gyelo Amda Kuma Chudu Yeshi Gyazo Serge Rambuta Chapa Jede Songa Lambe Kumbu Chuni Gyela Jazabo Senjo Demba Chime Dawe Sendo Rawa Gyela Jazabo Kendra Siva Suma Ji Nyame Kimyi Gyela Jazabo Kumbu Tuji Jindemba Tamji Kimbe Tromba Sona Yende Gyazo Je Dejin Shela Jazabo Tabe Deja Jawa Gyuru Gewe Nyezo Lejo Chido Dandang Jigurva Shigyu Jala Jawa Shone Jobe Layang De Laba Dala Rabbe Chinge Lamba Yende Gindu Layang Shaz Bimba Chiyang Meja Shi Gyawa Prusum Sobar Rangi Sene Yonzu Dene Sange Tembai Karma Rali Marmedo Gyuma Seba Chukurda Malala Dida Dije Jana Dida Sona Dije Kamche Sibai Koban Dene Kimje Tabi Gada Nadan Shive Lapchu Sibe Sole Roa Drobora Shum You're the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, the supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you, who were wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that dharma which pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path of liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community, intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death. Janju semba semba sembo papa chere de wanju tera de paro de semba samyo jeba nila nambara taji pombo avo de la ya na senje tombar nambara tao de sange ge tu sedan de ba jari Janju Zemba Zemba Jimbo Baba Jirese Wanjula Dige Chemeso Rigi Bu Kamla La Shera Gibaru Jimba Samu Jimba Juba Juba De Jitan Baparja Dige Jemeba Janju Zemba Zemba Jimbo Baba Jirese Wanju Gi Sedan Zemba Jare Da De Bula Dige Chemeso Shari Bu Rigi Bu Rigi Bu Kamla La Shera Gibaru Jimba Samu Jiba Juba number Jadi bumbung apa dena Tasi tomba nomor yanda bar Jesu tau zu tomba u tomba ni zu le tomba ni shema ye tomba ni le kyang tu shen na mai no de shen du zorwa dan du she dan number sheba nam tomba u jadi bo de da che tam je tomba ni de sin me ba ma je ba ma ga ba ti ma me ba ti ma dan she wa ji wa me ba kan wa me ba u shari fu de da wen na tomba ni la su me sorwa me du je na me na ba she ba me mi me na wa me na me che me lu me yi me su me ja me chi ro me re ja me che me do mi ge ka me ba ne yi ge ka me yi ge na ba she be ka ge ba do ya me do ma ri ba se ba me ba ka shi me ka shi se be ba do ya me do de shen do dong ya wa dang ku jong ko ba dang la me yi shi me to ba me ma do ba ya me do ya ri bu de da we na chang ju sen ba na to ba me be chi ru che ra ge ba ru de chen ba la de ji ne de sen la je ba me jing zha ba me de qi jie lo le xin lu de de yang ye le de be ta ru chi lu du song na ba shu be sang ge dan ji yang che ra ge ba ru de chen ba la de ne la na me ba yang da ba do be sang ge do mo ba ru do ba sa je do de da wen na che ra ge ba ru de chen be ma de ba chen be ma la na me be ma me yang ba da yang be ma dong ye tan je ra du shi wa che be ma mi zu me na den ba shi ba cha che ra ge ba ru du chen be ma me ba ta ya ta ka de ba ra sam ga de bu ti do Janju Semba Semba Jembu de da Shiragi Paru de Jemba da Mola Lapara Jau de Jum de Tinge de Le Shimde Janju Semba Semba Jam Baba Jere Se Wanju La Lexo She Jawa Jene Lexo Rigi Bu de Shin de Shin de Jidar Gyugi Temba Shin de Shiragi Paru de Jemba Samola Jebara Jate Sheba Namjan Jesu Yiramu Ka me te dan de ba je re da de bo dan jan ju sem ba jin bu pa ba je re ze wan ju da tan de da de ve kor de da ha da me da na ma ye da je sa che be ji de yi ran de chon de ji sung bo na mo mo re Thus I have heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgiri Hill on Vulture's Beach, together with the great assembly of monks and Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examined all phenomena called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, was engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, how should those who good family learn wish to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, replied to the Venerable Shariputra, saying, O Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, I look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, karmic formations, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor free from impurity. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karmic formations, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eyes up to no spheres of the mind. There are none of these all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is there destruction of ignorance. There are none of these all the way up to, there is no old age in death, nor is there destruction of old age in death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no fast. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, all Bodhisattva hold to the wisdom gone beyond. And because there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times, by relying on the wisdom gone beyond, fully and clearly awakened to unsurpassed, most perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra of great insight, the unexcelled and unsurpassed mantra, the mantra that comes all suffering should be known as the truth, for there is no deception. The mantra of the wisdom gone beyond is proclaimed. O Shariputra, Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and praised the noble Lokalokiteshvara. Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, saying, very good, O son of good family. It is exactly like that. Profound wisdom gone. Practice exactly as you have said. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the whole gathering and the world with its gods, men, anti-gods, and spirits, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. So ends the noble discourse on the essence of the wisdom gone beyond.
아니 주인주부터 다 저쪽으로 저바데 가리메 아니 달라지 안데이메 다 뒤트시 대드레스 다 뒤두 다 저바세데 저바데 말하면서 이단한테 루마 예수 저바세 이거래 대단 루마 예수 저바다 되다 저바데 망고요 이내다 다데 저바세 아니 계세 참주스는 저바도 바세나 참주스는 상계다 참주스만은 안 저바를 러베 저바들라 러비 들라 주비니 세가 대시디 저기요래서
Here it is Thursday, and we resume the way of the Bodhisattva, the Bodhicharya Avatara. It is the way of the Bodhisattva. It is a way. The Bodhisattva, then, what is the way? The training? It is the charya of body, speech, and mind, the activities of body, speech, and mind, and they are various. The way of the Bodhisattvas are the heirs to the Buddha. So it is the trainings, the activities of Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, their heirs, which we ourselves engage in. We enter this very conduct.
뭐든지 세상에 이들마다 제세 chanjusembe 저벌 주베 가서는 저벌 주게야겠다 주단데 가서 담아나도 간제스는 잘 뻔하다 뭐기 뭐 산제 심바다 아니 산제를 로심을 chanjusem바 남지 아니 가르쳐 뭐기 산제 쪽이 달라고 나시 아니 사침보다 내가 chanjusem바 자야 잠자야 소고 자, 예외세지게 안 되나신가? 팀다처럼이라서 뭐 어디서 감각이 아니다. 뭐게 단계의 산지적으로 간데스라고 요바나시 본주고 있나시 라지는 그런도 제대로 저발라 아니 자주 생게 아니 제대로 저발라 되는 요레스 아니 되는 마용지는 되는 마다 단계에서 좀 쉬어라라는 조절라서 받아는 진행다 시소 틀어 빈도 좀 상말로게 뭐게 좀 유선으로 간절라는 이끌어지 이게 대나시를 달랑이 냠슬랑다는 또 보이들지 아니 참 유선도 저걸 라바 제가 해서
How is this charya, this training, this mode of behavior entered, begun with? For example, in just the way that Buddhas of the past, those that have attained Buddhahood, the Bodhisattvas in training presently, in just the same way as Manjushri and the 8 heirs, close heirs to the Buddha, abiding on the loftiest Bodhisattva bhumis, and the charioteers, those that develop the mind of enlightenment and practice, as Bodhisattvas do, and then those that afterwards emulated them, taking them as exemplars of the Charya of the Bodhisattvas, Shantideva, Atisha, and the many Pandits of India, the 17 Pandits of Nalanda. All these persons emulated the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And so do we, and this is the Charya, the Bodhicharya.
Oh, today it is a matam, Hada, Paranzoka, Mandoyam, and Mogita, Sanju Sampato, Chitara Lavanashi, and Koranzo with Sanjus Temple Lavanashi, Maranzoyan, that Lovain, Lobu Yoba Indu, and that just Sanju Sampal Choba, Lobs, Sanju Sambu Choba, and a Tambo Kandeski over, and then the part of the Jambo, the Laviat, Mong, Sanju Sampato, Chitara Lavanashi, Maranzo, the Pet. Better shine and yams along the luxurious ones. The mother and sour the neck of where he's a mares.
Then we, as they have, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas have, those who have developed the mind of enlightenment and entered into the conduct of those who have developed the mind of enlightenment, we take those individuals as our exemplars and we follow in their path. So they first show us how to adopt it in the first place, and then in the middle, how to train indeed. And then, as this is the case, this is the model for our practice, then there's nothing new, there's nothing newly invented here. It is all an emulation of the Buddha's and the Bodhisattva's conduct.
Oh, yes, today it is a matter. Mongi Chase, Chanju Sambatnamji, and Chanju with Sem. That we gave us it, and then love. And then Jabala Juba Chen. Oh, that is a love your Setanta Oma, Jazz and Jusamba Tedagi, and Chanju with some Yula Jabala. The Jusamba Jabala love Tuba. The Zuka to me as a Namaranzo. And Sanju with Sem. And Cartini Rangi, Sanju Sem Kiva your mother. Cartin Jajus Jabala love to your mother, that she was the dish of your Sedan. The Karesna, that mortgage I just use about the Zogi, and the Tango Chanju to the same jet, and the Chanju sent the Joba Kantata, most joke to your body, and the Karecheveres, that Mazuka Lamato Karecheveres, that take land dela, and Mazuka the Malam Tungo over the Chanju sent children, which in my Jeba and Jevan, one of the trouble shows. Or the Jazz and use about Zoga, how much Chanju was sent to Jula Jebase, and it gave the Jebati. Manyamache, a corner to pay a chivalry love, what they did now yours. Mazu, Sandusan, would you like give a chair, give a chair maybe, and chivalry love to create the only Maruasan. The past Bodhisattvas, heirs to the Buddhas, in the first moment, develop the mind of enlightenment, Bodhicitta. And then they trained in Bodhicitta. They entered the very charya, the very activity animated by the mind of enlightenment. This is the manner of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. They develop the mind of enlightenment, and then they are furthermore able to engage in the practices informed by the mind of enlightenment. So how does this happen? How does it happen when we have not developed the mind of enlightenment? How does it happen when we are seemingly unable to engage in the charya, the activities of the bodhisattvas? So the answer is because in the first moment, the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas develop the mind of enlightenment. We're able to train in the charya, to engage in the practices informed by Bodhicitta. And whereas we are not presently, the very verse that we recite, may the precious mind of enlightenment, where it has not already arisen, arise and grow, and where it has arisen, may it not decline, but increase forevermore. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas developed the mind of enlightenment, and then to ensure that it never did decline, they began to
practice the activities informed by bodhicitta. They instantiated bodhicitta in their activities. This is the entrance into the way of the bodhisattva. This secures the mind of enlightenment, whereas we have yet to develop the mind of enlightenment, let alone preserve it through instantiation in our activities. Then developing the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, in the first place, in the first case, is critical naturally. But how does it occur that it doesn't happen for us? In order to develop the first enthusiasm, the first interest in the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, the way of the Bodhisattva in the first chapter describes the benefits of bodhicitta. Without a description, a familiarity with the benefits of bodhicitta, there can arise no enthusiasm, no interest in it, for it. And so, in order to develop the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, in the first case, all of these various causes and supportive conditions are required. Now, what further causes are required? Especially the removal of negativities that prove to be obstacles to the development of bodhicitta. Now, for the thorough expiation of negativities in the mind, we apply the 4 antidote powers. The application of the 4 antidote powers is critical to the removal of the negativities that obstruct the mind of enlightenment. The application of the 4 antidote powers for the purpose of reconditioning the mind so that it is no longer stained by negativities, just as we clean plates before we use them. We clean whatever we plan to eat from, whether we have something to eat from at the moment or not. It's essential that it be clean before we then eat from it. And then once clean, then we are comfortable eating from it, and we put food in it and the rest. And so in the same way, when the mind is purified, then it becomes a receptacle for the accumulation of merit accomplished through the 7 branch offering. So does that which hinders the mind of enlightenment, the obstacles to the mind of enlightenment are the negativities. Removing the negativities, then the mind is clean, clarified, and the mind of enlightenment may develop there. For its development there, the 7 branch offering, when complete, is the primary cause for the successful development of bodhicitta.
단단한 시에 강하다 장주지단 장주쌤 마제버 제버시베 탑제 마제버 제버시베 탑이 나네 아니 다 거기 양아 되봐 양아 들 나네 아니 다 타마 뭐에 누구 나네 아니 뭐에 누구 나다 뭐야 돼 제도다 뭐당도 뜻이제고요 해서
Now, what we are involved in presenting now, describing now, is within the 7-branch offering, the Anattara Puja, within this offering, the branch of dedication. For developing the mind of enlightenment where it hasn't developed, the best method of all is the Anattara Puja, the 7-branch offering. Now, within the 7-branch offering, within dedication itself, we now take a look at the substances that may be dedicated and how one is to dedicate them.
야, 일단에 뭐 지금 그래서 시에 차버리네. 나 뭐야 모두 잡아. 아, 당고 뭐야 제일 거로 지난 제일 뭐야 다 지도를 한 개워지 거다. 제일 남았다. 제일은 열심히 맞고 거를. 뭐야 개워지 쌓여 전달 다 가르치거든요. 당고 전주 쌤배 냠내기 당고 지금 냠내기 집에 퍼지는 냠내 아니 돈내 지야 돼. 걸 돈내기 냠내 아니 시 돈내 냠내 제비리 개워디 아니 뭐에 제라 그 당시에 그래서 뭐지.
So we've completed the description of how one dedicates. Now, as we involve ourselves in the actual dedication, some substance, some content is required. Now, if we call it substance, a material, that might be misleading, and we can simply say virtue. Virtue is the conduct. Rather, virtue is the content, that which is dedicated. It is the virtue of practicing informed by Bodhicitta, particularly here, the paramita of generosity, and then especially again, the practice of exchanging and equalizing self and other, which as virtuous practice may be transformed into the content, the substance, as it were, that is dedicated.
가지고 뭐 시계비 뭐 생기디 양면은 제스피 배면도 저거한테는 지금 저거 가르 표시는 제피의 개와디 아니 산지 고마토의 줄을 들어와서 선제기 대화용 줄을 들어와서 라나 디지털화서 뭐는 제가 왔딜라 모아스다 비와스 그래서 디지 단단하게 가르쳐나 동행이 남네데 장외의 평균이 아니 다 산지 고마토의 줄을 뭐야 어디 장이 열어서
Now, as I said before, dedication does require the content, the thing that is dedicated, a substance, as it were. One makes an offering of flowers or makes another sort of offering and has then a virtue to dedicate. Now, we especially, rather, a dedication is the thought to bring something about. So may this virtue bring about the state of Buddhahood for sentient beings. May it bring about lasting contentment for sentient beings. This is the dedication. This is the intention to bring it about, bring something about. And so here in particular, we have the practice of exchanging and equalizing self and others. May this, the practice of exchanging and equalizing self and others, bring about Buddhahood for sentient beings.
어두지 다 근데 이유가 동야 동다 집어 땅야 될 것인지는 야 군주로 추버해야 요리 마슬제는 집어 땅서 어디에 서비스 그래서 다 땅야 될라 아니 르 롱주 아니 뒤숨도 다 베겨와 계자 뭐다 베신기 사베 계자 이거 랑기 사베 계자 그래서 강가 아니 중모아치 모아치야 제일 어떻게 되어서
Now, giving, when we speak of giving, it is to give charitably, to practice generosity. This may be directed upwards to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, or downwards, respectively, to the sentient beings, ordinary sentient beings. This generosity practice to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas towards sentient beings is a generosity of giving that which may be given, the body, resources, and the roots of virtue of the 3 times. roots of virtue of the 3 times accumulated by ourselves, roots of virtues of the 3 times accumulated by others. All of these may and are transformed into things that are dedicated, the material that is dedicated. Within generosity, then, moved by compassion, the act to give thirst-quenching water to those who are thirsty, to feed the hungry, to clothe the cold. These, along with the practice of giving to the Buddhas for the purpose of accumulating one's own merit, these are all forms of generosity. However, these forms of generosity are not what we mean here when we speak of exchanging and equalizing self and other. We aren't speaking of giving food to the hungry, water to the thirsty, dressing those who are cold so they can face the cold. These aren't the meanings we intend here. We intend the meaning that is the actual completion of generosity as a liberality of mind, and this requires considerable causes and conditions for it to come about. Then what is required for the completion of generosity that is liberality of mind? What is required is first the objective, and the objective is to personally achieve enlightenment, the state of Buddhahood, so that all sentient beings may know contentment, so that they may achieve Buddhahood and omniscience. This is the objective then. And then furthermore, when giving in the generous act, there cannot be any possessiveness at all. One can have no self-interest at that moment. The interest is entirely directed at the welfare of sentient beings. So there's no self-interest involved at all, no trace of it. And then the intention is, as the intention goes forth, it is willing, entirely enthusiastic, unrestrained. There is no possessiveness. The giving is done freely. It must be done freely, without any restraint, without any possessiveness.
Oh, yeah, that's it. That the time that you to get that so start the yawa, around top of Lu, and Luigi, Kube, Lonjo, carry you by the get Tamaro, and the time the channel and the more con Sheba machine down to what we are. It down to not and paying careers, 아니 양대 산지 고가 토그레스 인제 당분들이 해서
Now, giving all that may be given is the body, resources, and all accumulated virtues of the three times. This is the body that we have gotten. It is all resources that we have accumulated, and then all virtues too. All of this may be given. One must be able to give all of this. When one is able to give all of this, then the result of that is the achievement of nirvana.
진짜 탐지에 땅왔다 양을 때버 탐지에 땅에게 규제기 양을 때버 토그레스 따지 더 잘. 양을 때버디 라나 톰도 요레스 가르사 라나 대화 근데 동에 파 트렌드 땅 대화 소리하게 삼로 꾸룽비 미바디 수술 요레스 이 여바 인자 수술 양대 토프에 미바디 요레 제다가 양대도 토베 지도 톰도 여바 인자 근데 토베하게 유 아니 탐지 땅한테 어디 오열에 손
So then the argument is one gives all for the reason that nirvana results from having given all. So there's the argument. Then furthermore, when we recognize we wish to achieve nirvana, the wish that animates the mind, the desire for just this, would then entail that we pursue the very cause for nirvana if we wish to achieve nirvana. So then we know from the argument that the cause of nirvana is giving all, and we wish to give all.
예, 다 그래. 제자인데 다 탐지 땅세도 탐지 땅세도 빼는 거죠. 빼나다 대고 민백이 자주 뭐 도도도 있네요. 그 차고 빵도도 탐지 땅세대 과지 차단실에 비어야지. 다 말한도 빼나 이네 시도도 세표도도 아니 너무 룰로지 차단시 마다나 나지 땅이 캐고 땅이 열어왔어. 탐지 땅스 이제 강가 대리도 땅이 열어. 이나양 단다 탐지 땅세디 현재 땅땅한테 말해서 탐지 땅세디 딱 미유 선제 탐지라 딱 땅에 할 때도 딱 리트도 되는 망부여 예배 나네 딱 선제 탐지라 단다랑 류 치와 그 모두 마교배 뭐라 류 선바 예배 링라 아니 그게 땅 투가 있나 아니 딱 집어 땅세하게 세신하는 자기 어려서
Giving all, when we imagine giving all, this may be done in different ways. The first is to imagine the way in which the Travakas of the lower vehicle have given all, they've abandoned all desire. This is one way to interpret this. Another is to imagine the moment of death when we are forced to part with everything. The moment of death, of transmigration, at that moment, we're parted from everything. And in this way, in a sense, give all. However, this is not what we mean here by giving all. Giving all is a deliberate giving to all sentient beings at the moment while we are still living, before we have met the moment of death. So while living, while alive, we deliberately give to all sentient beings, and this is the measure of giving and generosity.
예, 딱 그게 땅세디 그 단다 집어 땅세디 아니 그 땅야 되라 빼나다 땅야 유다 땅제 제다 누수 강가로 마구 키제 창국이어서 빼나 땅야 돼야 아니 수수기 지그랑이 되버 땅세디랑이 되버 여서지가 땅 야, 내가 매사를 마당 대대치네. 집어 땅에 집어 다다 한강도 제주도 시에 집어 땅세기. 아니 세기 농구요 말했어. 딱 한다 널 농주 되게 술 되게 이번에 샘지 간대지가 땅그 술 되게 농구요는 될봐 땅 투야 여봐. 땅도 뭐 체벌면 샘지 술 샘지 강 되어봐 땅 투봐. 대야 땅야 대야 랑기 배 미 아니 지금 랑기 대화도 치도 많이 봐. 그 시행 코는 대화로 그 치도 힘봐. 되게 뒤에 되게 차는 거는 땅이나 아니 다 단다 동네기 냐매 체겠다. 当塞塞的不有人说
The giving involved in generosity, of course, has its various parts involved. To whom we give, that which we give. And this makes a difference of the measure of whether it is generosity, in fact. For instance, when we give to a preferred person and give nothing to those who we have no preference for, this would not meet the measure of generosity in the way of the Bodhisattva. The measure there is to give whatever to whoever is wishing for something, we give to them with no prejudice, with no partiality. The aim is to satisfy every wish had by everyone and to hold nothing for ourselves out of self-interest and to be moved entirely and solely by others. And this is the measure that the practice of exchanging and equalizing self and other and the measure of the way of the Bodhisattva's description of generosity establishes for us.
아니 가운데 기도 양해 때문에 산지 고와 전주 랑 대화 탈치 뭐 토비하게 된다라 단계 여봐 되게 다 이내요 한다 그런 집ot 오늘 땅야 양내기 제약이 뒤주시될 거 뒤주도 봤다 맞아 삼지 지고 말한다 맞아 양내 제디 한다 맞아 그 라바타 강바체 미테 로버트 되게 로주 테스 카도 되게 라바나시 테 투야디 맞아 한다 셈 고미요 말에 양내기 제약이 뒤줄을 내요 말했어. 단단 먼저 치고야 가르스나 셈이 나왔다. 정달제 셈 나는 우리 편바 땅야 편바 장야 뒤지 뒤지도 양내 뒤지도 먼저 단다 세 먼저 양내 단다 네가 두고 그래서 그렇지.
Then to recap this, to review it again, when practicing generosity, the generosity is of body, of resources, of roots of virtue. Now, there's a purpose to the generosity. The argument is our ultimate wish is for the contentment of nirvana. And this comes from giving all. And we wish to achieve nirvana. So then we would wish to give all. However, the moment of giving all, the moment to give all, the moment wherein we are giving freely of our hands and our eyes and all of our organs, we haven't reached that moment. That is the moment of an individual at a rarefied level of practice. We haven't met this moment yet. Rather, we are at the moment of exercising our mind so that it may reach such a moment. We are training and conditioning the mind with this end, with this objective. Now, when we develop an ability, that time hasn't yet to come, but when we develop generosity, then there's no worry, there's no concern for the sacrifice entailed by acts of generosity. What is worrisome, what is troubling, is the wait for a person who would receive our generosity. So in the meantime, we familiarize, habituate our minds to a liberality that comes, so that a moment does come when the only concern is that one to whom we may give freely of our eyes or hands, that they may not come soon enough. That would be the concern when this training has developed fully, and then when such a person does come begging for an eye, for hands, whatever they may, we are thrilled. A person is thrilled then that they have the opportunity to give.
Oh yeah, that dine da mat dogida ta dine ta chinji lula rang yebe lo thorwa sa lo changai dire ta rang gi lu chimbataya gi nyamne ta lang ondor kol shigi yores ya da di shya de la tenju gu za de da ne lu jen tamje la lu de chi de jin si gi da du sue da ma ba da de so chi de che la ra oh che da za di gi yores che da di gi ta lu chirado the mixation the lu chibata ko yamne chidan ti segi yore so.
Now I'm going to go on to verse 13, which follows with sections dedicated specifically to giving the body, giving over bodily autonomy. And verse 13 reads on page 49, "This body I have now resigned to serve the pleasure of all living beings. Let them ever kill, despise, and beat it, using it according to their wish."
Oh yeah, that dagi is that so rani that chu rani kaza suina rani is ani lujen thamjela simje thamjelas that ludi chidir jinsi is rangi ludi ani simje subita sulo kang dogi yoina debatela nge ludi that te ji that che sawa is jinsi che sawa res that te sani ani garichigo res that ani rangi that teba meba rangi lulu pe shencha kene meba chinta ani migi ta lu khandes longchu gi yoy na pe rang teba yoy longchu chu gu yoro o digi phaba ta de ko shegi yore so.
This body I have now resigned. I, the one now practicing this generosity, I have now resigned to serve the pleasure of all living beings. I have now resigned it. I have given it over. That is done. I have voluntarily given it over to whomever wishes for it, whoever wishes for it, whoever they are. If they have a wish for it, to use it, it must be used in some way. It is given over to them. There's no remaining attachment, no sentimental attachment left for this body.
Oh yeah, chela de ido da lu de rang la ta jin san tre sa chela ani sta rang gi lu on je de rang la yo ma re tre sa ye da shin ji wang ro was shin ji wang yin de ta ba ta shin ji rang gi lu la ani da khang da wang ji wang che ne ani pe ju dang gi ro da pe na da ang bo de la pe na de je do tang bo sue ba tang se da sue ya de la da pe na ma do ji shin ji rang la chen ro ki on ne tīda mēndā dā kārī kīyōngu inā tīndē kīni rāngu sēba chēba inā yāng anī rāngi lūyī sōngwā dā tīndē māchība kāntā kō kārī rāngi kōrāng dōba yōba tī anī kōrāng kāng dōba yōba chē chūgā dā chīk chē dā tīne mēba tāngsī mēba sī sī dā kāntā tāngbō tī sē tāngsī tī pātī lūgī kōne dā shēngi māntū nōba chē dā ngāji kōne nōba chē lūgī kōne nōba chē dā yōgurwa 이지고 너바체 받는 용어로 어디서 시기서다 인도자바 루이지고는 아니 그 랑도 선 대바다 들레체 랑도 소 제바 용어도 들레체바 이나 양 콜라 소 중에라 초와 마제바 아니 콜라야 랑게 루이디 랑 단지 마제바 루이디 콜 테사와인다 단지 치야 요마스단 시행이 온 송사를 세바 이나야 초와 치야 요마스 직세 담며 봐서도 다 만들어 빼는 단다이나 랑게 단지디 르마땅인다 마지바인다 생기라는 두고 두네랑 공도사야 미지 때와 이나야 공도사고야 제약들이 여러다 뒤도 매봐 가르스 칸도 이렇게 두자르스나라 저 돈이르스나라 다 저랑 배 저를 저번에 요마 저를 누가 요마르스 가를 람나야 아니 시엘라 그 두자라나야 랑 서바고 시엘라 토와 맞아 저거레스 니제 칸메버제 다수바 덱소 히스 덱버스 그러면 이다 땅어다 되네지 거기 쉬마다 가르쳐봐이나 하는 고랑이 되어 이번에 제주고마도 콜라야 제송스인데 아니 랑게 다도 류로 송와 쳐봐다 아니 시에는 토와 쳐봐 되게 지금 매선에는 굴lun부터 농와 쳐야들 해서
In this body I have now resigned to serve the pleasure of all beings. The body has now been given over. And now bodily autonomy has passed. The decisions about how this formerly personal body will be used as theirs, others. So they may control it and use it as they wish. And first then, let them ever kill, despise and beat it. Let them ever kill, coming with armed with a knife or a gun, however they may attack one. There'll be no effort at self-defense. Everything is allowed, whatever violence is allowed. And so this is the first, let them ever kill. This is followed by despise, let them ever despise. The first, taking life, then death, is physical harm. This second is verbal. Now, it also says here, let them ever kill, despise, and beat it. I will have no anger, feel no anger. Whatever the abuse, there's no feeling of anger, no animosity, because there's no self-grasping to cause it. And so then let them ever kill, let them ever despise it. This speech then, ordinarily with our self-grasping, if someone points at us, any finger pointing, if they look askance at us, it's enough to cause us to become angry. But whether a person looks askance at us, gives us the eye, or points a finger at us, or says, hey, you're ugly, or you're an awful person, or there's none worse than you, whatever they may say, that is the moment for tolerance, and then to let them ever kill, despise, and beat it. However, one may be punished, beaten, whatever does happen, as it is the wish of others, and bodily autonomy has been given over them, and they have chosen to do it, then one allows it without any aversion. And this is the attitude of this dedication.
Oh yeah, that in it. All of these things, and that huge, but I did turn out to go to that, but yes, kisses and joinas. And in that person, the was the dog in Lula, Zechetam. Joti, Shege, Yucham, dog in Ludi, Chinsigi, the Kaji, Chishi Charles. Or that thing. And that's the huge, but I'm going to have passage or Tedeschi or Resonance.
Now then, to increase then this description of giving the body, verse 14 expands upon it. And though they treat it like a toy or make of it the butt of every mockery, my body has been given up to them. Why should I make so much of it? So again, the 14th verse expands on giving of the body.
Oh yeah, that in a sheet that you can't tell that dog is. That's which begging a man, Lalamian doggies, and Lula, and change so much of Shane Lula's berangit. Okay, say about the one, forget Zemutam at Zewa, courage Zemuch of the chicks. And it choked each of us. George was some of Kanya Godoa, until to go to Dram and Chenia quiet or the George Chavas, taught some bicycle, taught some also pay also. Kule mata ngal ko thas ngal chi yama thos sam basi do ani shege che bas ge mo lo ye che mo pe na yu mo de do chi do na da semje piu do do la ni ma zu ko de ba yo ma ta ma zu ko on yu she ni ani pe dam de thap de pe me ge mo she ya de ta me chi ju gu do o de na ji de che ba ina yang ani rang ge ta khang da lu di rang la 왕 요마 신의 제사래 제단 애들 가르치는다 단도 왜 다니지랑 룰을 짜친 거지 다니지 이제 지에 요마스 가르치는 류들이 밀을 제사래 신자다 신기 가르쳐 봐 있나요 랑기 류 송야다 얘를 토와체 봐 이제 저는 매운 토와체 봐들 미치가 맞지 아니 다도 그 제바들 써봐고 뭐 될라 때네 아니 그 랑기 신기 주念觉보다 랑기 써봐고보다 신 콜레 어디 다도 랑라 룰을 좀 잡는다 써봐 된다 내가 마요야 어 된대기도 모아 체들 해서 놓지
And though they treat it like a toy, this verse is similar to the preceding verse. And though they treat it like a toy, a body may be toyed with, it may be used to perform in a foolish way, an entertaining way, maybe a toy to others. And though they treat it like a toy or make of it the butt of every mockery, we mock people, don't we? We taunt people, we point fingers and abuse people, we compare people, all these sorts of things, or make of it the butt of every mockery. Furthermore, we will make people dance, perform the way monkeys, we can have monkeys perform in a circus similarly for laughs, for the mockery, to jeer them, who have no control over themselves. We are like that. We have given up our autonomy. And so my body has been given up to them. Why should I make so much of it? I have given over my autonomy. My self-grasping is no longer relevant. Why the self-seriousness then? The giving over of autonomy has happened. So now I won't work in my own defense to protect myself, nor will I become angry at others when abused. Instead, I will practice tolerance. And this tolerance I practice is also the tolerance that the abuse directed at me, whatever form it take, that it never come around again and harm the one who has harmed me.
Oh yeah, that is the kandata suzuka kanda seminal moache rangi kari duga cheba ane rangla never cheba kandi chiba ina yang ije kanga shenla ma neba pemba shows moache sang lu lu tangi tangi ru dige de nyame che deje ta di ola ane ta kharchi gresna ta baget kandar rigwe lel jarwasa ta dige kanga de chege chena pen yo ba deshe jaya tandala and the old level tell us never mijurwe legang yimba chedu jokes oh cheta the all six sunjara tell us never without sigit.
Then the dedication here is for abuse, harm done to us, whatever form it takes, that it never cause harm to others, that it always cause for them, whoever it is who is doing the harm, only benefits. And then the next verse describes how and which actions are appropriate, how these sorts of actions, this sort of attitude is beneficial. So then, and so let beings do to me whatever does not bring them injury.
Oh yeah, today you know that sigdi kadu deshi jana ane ta rang lü jin sabe lü la tenes ane chen ne ba ta ne ba su da che la ne ba ane pu la ne ba de ma wo yo o tenje minju tenje ne ba minju ane le kadar ta didang ta kandil 대식군도 딸 저와 디다 치마 군도야 아니 내 가르쳐 봐도 그런 게 되바 이번에 가르치기는 될 아니 제일 가제 주는 매봐 가르 그런 되바 이번에 제네 아니 배콜라 간다 즉 거기 세 딜레이네 고랑 려받침바 딜로 시행을 만들어 딜레이 요한이 지다는 뭐하지 해서
The verse then describes having given over the body, that the body never become cause for harm to those, to any others, either a acute harm, short-term harm, or long-term harm to them. Whatever the action, in this life and in lives to come, may what they have done cause no hindrance and no obstacle to them and their satisfaction. May whatever they have done lead only to satisfaction in this life and in lives to come. This is the meaning of the verse.
Oh, yeah, 제가 단단 가라앉을 카리어스나 단단 가라앉을 단지요. 단지 빌로 따로 좀 봐. 대마 생안지 슈 첨부체. 안지 슈 첨부 유디 단단 가라앉을 대시 들이 잡아 있나요? 셈나는 즉 독바사고야. 어디 이 맛이야 최고야. 어디서 간가 용약이 깨가는 아주 셈나. 마콤바지. 마콤베 간라 단단 뭐는 검대지도 검바디 카리어스나 ranching shukchibu komba yuezang ani semnala tada tinyam tongay nyamne tigide khagbochi thoroya doas ta danjin di pa chung chi ani ranching di khale meba cha duguduna ani tada lo jaya tigidela chibuchi khagbo thanda rangla jebar zimba di khapyo di shenla jebar zimba che doas chesang wote degi nyamne yidu khandarta rangla jebar zimba semdi shuk chung tang 시행을 제바드베 좀 슈프처럼 아니 제마 랑지지디 해침부 매바 시행진지 개침부 임바디 아니 규제도 제네 아니 단 냠내 지투야 돼 가가 연구를라 아니 지투고 해서
Now, because of the force of self-grasping, the habit of identifying so strongly with the personal self, when the verse's meaning is explained so, it is incredible to us. We are incredulous. We doubt very much its plausibility at all. And this is because we are unfamiliar with the cast of mind that makes it plausible. And so presently, self-grasping is overwhelmingly powerful. We're overwhelmingly familiar with just identification with the personal self. So we are incredulous when we find the meaning described so in these verses. But with the lessening, with the attenuation of self-grasping mind, then the preference for the cherishing of others increases, and self-identification is lessened. And then that which is described here becomes conceivable to us. And not only that, but it eventually comes to pass for us.
Oh, 제가 그저스다 맞췄다. ညamne nangde 로종로 ညamne nangde 삼바 아니 가담바 계시바도 이제도 아니 가르쳐 먹었는데 맞저기 단다 깬 차고 안아들어 직내 나사 깬 차고 배 요자 망고 용화야 가가로 아니 되게 깽에 가르쳐 먹었는데 되게 되가 아니 계획신이 있어 버렸어. 깽에 계획신이 이제 아니 벌제 딱 맞을라 직 내가 전에 남라 만도야 아니 직 삼로 하는데 삼바나 여바데 두마도야 되게 다 이제 벌제 망고 요 벌제 되게 가가 여와치야로 꾸마이스 계획 꾸마 아주게 소소로 배 개개로 있나 라는 내가 제조 구글 왔다 되게 오늘 지금 꾸마 진이디 있어 버렸어 벌제 계획 꾸마이스 야 따디네 동에 디베 참아있어 동에서 맞다 semla maji ba lula mader ba yongaya lu be na chawa yongaya dizu ganga lo karsan ma digba ma chaya chama yin se go hosa digba le chama yin dire se go 제단 dire 이디 아니 다 나올라 아니 밖에 메가 왔으면 마가 왔다 마대와 용도 잡아 아니 자마생 삼 튕겨요 말했어. 거기 다 지금 something to 튕겨 말했어. 이제 가가 아니 가다 메가 주베 메가 메가 줄도 마줄 앙스 메가 근데 마가와 지야기 근데 실은 맞지 앙스 가다 맞고 근데 랍제 지야기다 지금 망보 요레스 디나는 지금 해서
In the tradition of mind training among the Kadampa masters, as they described what the practice entailed, there was a proverb like wisdom to identify, to recognize in misfortune and calamity the Kalyana Mitra, the spiritual friend. Whatever the adversity, physical illness, natural disaster, these are the spiritual friend. These are the spiritual friend, the Kalyana Mitra, whatever they are. And then whatever inability we're confronted with, whatever incapacity, whatever limitation we face, that is the urging on into practice. That is encouragement or inspiration to practice. And so then, is any pain, physical, mental, fever, illness, when it occurs, the sweeping away of that negativity? And this is all to turn a person away from displeasure at unpleasantness and toward an embrace of unpleasantness and displeasure to transform it.
Oh yeah, that and then you do about that. And then round never chiva country chimba ina young, and that the gate ganga, and rangini long together about low tongues are shell jeans had it. That jeans had to rangi tiny chair that they go on rang loaded some torsa, ganga town sarva, that other change countries long chiva ina young, and it's shell pamper shows, and a call of maneuver shows. Then
we have, faced with any sort of harm or abuse, as we have already given over body, resources, and roots of virtue, as this is over and done, these have been given over. Then when the abuse happens, the harm occurs, that it benefit the harm doer, and that it never come to harm the harm doer. This is the attitude implied in the dedication here.
Oh yeah, that is Shana Pemba Bashiki Durmo was that Shana Karicheva in a bed that makes never Cheva the Rangi Soba Goma the Rangi Soba Gomeki Gewati Shana Pemba Yongagachito Moba Chadres. Then it's 60,000 dollar meaning Namduyam Gayan to me major cheeks. What's it is?
And then the harm, the tolerance in the face of harm done to a person, then, as this is a virtue, that this virtue too is dedicated to others. This is the second two verses of verse 15, second two lines. Whenever they may think of me, let this not fail to bring them benefit.
Oh, yeah, that and that dig and dollar big that is wrong. Change around meaning that Nimo, Magia, Hapsum yours. Then that Suzuku Pat, Shella meaning Nimoji, but then I change around meaning Nimo Magia. That's a Sanji, you in there, Nimo may think it's Nimo may think it's or Sanji meaning any on the Suan Chavaji or Sanji with Tabaji, Chavaji, Cocarza. Local Changway didn't then you about the Sanji and Muji with ordinary. You moment things is Sanji and Deji, so that you care a dollar, and then it giant to that social dollar meaning any Shingi Chawamaji at $10. And it's to Shingi round meaning Maga, Magua, or the Magia Chitola, and Yamecha, Yamedi or response.
아니 그래서 니 몸에 빙에진데 라 니상기 좀 된데 라 추르 아니 바로 미수 따나야 아니 녀모
아마타도 니모 마지야
라라라 데데 빙에진기 누구디로
빙에진기 말하다 미 장야 되지
라라
다디 제만 장은 되고시 더 그러고 아니 니모에 빙에진서 다디 되지 라라라 당도 산지를 미네 아니 이모지도 또 가서 이모에 빙에지
라라라 어디 거기네 that's good. Whenever they may think of me, let this not fail to bring them benefit. As when these harm doers do their harm, and I encounter them, this causes me no increase in mental afflictions. So too may it be that when they view me, encounter me, there is no increase in their mental afflictions. And this corresponds to the quality of the Buddha, the samadhi free of mental afflictions. This is a quality of the Buddha that he has achieved the samadhi free of mental afflictions. Whoever it is who is encountering him, they will not, encountering him, develop any mental afflictions, increase any mental afflictions. So too, may this harm doer, when they see me, never develop mental afflictions seeing me.
Oh yeah, that they candidacy cheva in that. They around never cheva. Camber cheva, candidacy in a Kanda shank to him by Shindu by Shi to Jua to you. They got candidacy by the Tunda member, Chica member, you are so small gatherers.
Whatever is done, harm done, benefits done, whatever it may be, may it all be beneficial and never be counterproductive for the person. This is the spirit of the verse. Whenever they may think of me, let this not fail to bring them benefit.
Oh yeah, that can take it. What you the chew missiles. That's chew missile. The last Sambeton and Gawache was the chew missile. Yubadan and Joveton Gawache was the chew missiles. Let number tabomoto led Kadu the Tola members. Or the dig subject Niores, in an Tambo Samba, Sambeg, Chebek, Jawaz to chew Masawa Chevade, and it's our Dala Mine, Kandaki, Trom, Ebesem Juna, Nita to Tedadi, and to go to a Juju cheeks or dig your response. Sambeg on the Jawat. Sambeg on the Jawat Chumesawas and take your response.
And these final two lines of verse 15 and then verse 16 that follows and the 17th verse, these are prayer dedications for the non-disappearance or the non-dissipation of virtue. Now the first verse 16 is the non-dissipation of virtuous intention and reads, and if in my regard they have a thought of anger or respect, may these states always be the cause whereby their good and wishes are fulfilled. And this is a description of the intention of the person, that it not dissipate ever. Verse 17 describes the actual action, that this too may not dissipate. Here, verse 16, the intention.
Oh yeah, that is city got Tambudi 300 one of the 300 and the 300 Matu Chanju with some giant that go down when Yamenti Seva ticket, Sevik, Jebudi, and Kaduina, Pola Mandua, Peten, Ever Kaduino, Vishindi, Sanji Kubanto, Julo, and they chitula, Mibadilata, but that's how they were take Karzana, and the Semje conditioning Yinayan Dala meanness, and the Kanda that then Kandagi, Troam, round of Lung Temba, Magawa Cheva, Maguba Cheva, Karcheba, Chebatan, and Yan. Rana Chikawa Cheva, Teba Cheva, Courage, Tida Tamji, and the Karzina, Tungun Drube, Juju, Teta Tamji, Lake, Hadiji Cheva Inayan, Rana Gawar Chiva Lane, Magawa Chiva Lane, Teta Tamji, and Sanji, Tamji Kimber, Gobantola, Gula, Goa Shows, nobody at the restaurants. There was a
Verse 16, concerned with the attitude of the mind, involved in the training of the attitude of the mind, concerns specifically preventing any attitude or intention of the mind from wavering, becoming different from a cause for the ultimate objective, which is the achievement of omniscience and Buddhahood. So whatever the nature of the intention of the mind in its encounter, whether another encounters us and is angered, displeased, disrespectful, or if they are pleased, filled with faith and reverence, whatever the case may be, in the intention involved in the encounter, may that be the constant cause, never lost, always the cause for eventual achievement of Buddhahood. And if in my regard they have a thought of anger or respect, may these states always be the cause whereby their good and wishes are fulfilled.
Oh, yeah, that's something for the George. That the George, Miss Audio, Kanda Tala. Kaseram, Shenda never Chebam, Tijin Chaga Toyaru, Senjin Chanju getting Juru, so the that Joe any Gavachi to choose out of the pen. Thank you, response.
And then verse 17 describes as an aspirational prayer non-dissipation of the actual instance in action, that it be cause for the achievement of Buddhahood. And reads this way: all those who slight me to my face or do to me some other evil, even if they blame or slander me, may they attain the fortune of enlightenment.
Oh, yeah, that Kanda, you Kanda, that Pijo Kandesi in a Rana, and it's Kasser Situ, but that Kanda, Chizodanta. Tigmason, Jemason, Tamason, Stan, which gets among Bushi, Millipag, Japshi, Millipag, Dujala, Euro Katan, or Zero Katan, Limba, Chichi. And it's Shannon never Chabas, but I Shannon never Chabas, but big similar, Mateo Silva, Lula never Chaba. And it's Pageta, near the trick, the pool, the little Trebacheva carry you bache. And it takes do. 차갈 동안에서 아주 뭐 미뒤는 투두 잡아 에스페 개 말아봐지 남주로 상보때 잡을래도 잡아니 고 다치마 고 두자를 고 그치마 고 신기 말에 고 지금 잡으러 갔다 저와 어 근데 간데 땅와 이나야 고 되게 땅와 그러나 땅와 이나야 되게 콜라야 만내봐 콜 만내봐다 라나야 뒤서봐 고베 아니 서바고베 페이도 서바고마다 시행기 수뇌바 제바다랑 서바고마다 디 계자 상말로 아니 콜라 베스 장주 쌤 귤레 제바다 타바 산지 고마토에 귤레 도와 쇼스 넘바 제들 해서
all those who slight me to my face, there's all sorts of ways that others are critical of us, fault us, any of these ways, or do to me some other evil. There are all sorts of ways that others disquiet us, perturb us, make us uncomfortable. And they can do this in ways that are acute or complex and lasting for us. These two. May these states always be the cause whereby their good and wishes are fulfilled. So too, along with what's done to our face, implied is all of that that is spoken behind our backs. And we're familiar with this too, those who when they meet us, have nothing critical to say, but behind our backs, they say, so-and-so knows nothing, they're foolish, they're at fault for this and that. All of these events, as we tolerate them and are patient with them, all of the virtue of this tolerance, may it return to the harm doer that as cause for the development of the mind of enlightenment and as cause for the achievement of Buddhahood.
Oh, the season that Lojong in Yamne singing the that Tango Rangi Semla, Tango Jonder Yabote Poeti, Kila Kachimbu Chagio, Chesan Tadango Semna, Pagay Sena Malaya, and it's Pagay Tonga, Tonga, Tang Tuya, Sambale Tuya, or the Zu Jaya, the Zu, Hachimboris, what Sem, Chang Savage Jella, and Valenta to somebody. The Tango Tongbu, the Library, and the Senate, the King, what I Jama, but Koran Chang Sani, and Jimbataya to the Leon, and okay, make it to Jimbat, Kadulish, Long Chena, some to the Jimbatang is Longy Chikleva from the Halley, Gauchim with Jay, and they get up for Tuesday, Koran Jimbatang to switch labor to do some labor, the issue sign bus. In a Tandana, Yamne Cherry, Seminalata, John Jet, or the kitchen will rest on.
So the early exercises for the mind involved in the training of the mind that reduce possessiveness, that seek to develop a liberality of thought and spirit. These are the beginnings to ever conceiving of what is beyond the realm of the imaginable now for us. The giving, the practice of generosity that is beyond us. It is beyond us until, through the exercise of the mind and the conditioning of the mind, possessiveness is reduced to such a degree that we are waiting for the moment to practice generosity, eager for the arrival of a person who will ask for anything, and thrilled when they arrive. As I have said. So presently we are developing the mind so that it may practice generosity. This is an exercise of thought and mentality.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Another Tanzing, Tang Moto, Tanzi, Chimbu Yube, Negap. Any chick pocket, okay, Jimena Mela was go. Gomazube, Lo Machame Kadula, and Nazu Palagios, Pedanazu, Ugu Chunjila, Ugu Chunjila, never stewayna, and a collar, nobody, okay, Rindanchable, Sergula, Soba, the day, forget Tilasha, and to the Koran Sayag, Gawi, Chirito, no one Chunju Tilasha, and a Pugudigi, when you get a Kariyaga and Karaduga, ye chasing Maros. In a Koran, the Karzanta Kalsa, Kadugama, the Kalsa, Koran, Kadu take the Otogi with the Koran, the Gama, the land, Sagruas. Hito, Manamata, the Loma Chama Kola, any Chikrangi, they all learned the round, they watch you to Tobia, Mother, learned Shiraka Uyores. The Lord Chansa to somebody, Pagachala, the concept washing is till a letter. And Chiri Lava or someone of some Pagachala, Cheva, go chat, one linger or dita with your response.
Self-grasping that is such a strong force in us and makes us incapable of giving or practicing generosity actually is until it is developed. So long as we are yet prepared to be generous. Until that time, we resemble little kids who, when you give them a very valuable small gift, something very, very valuable, and then you give them a candy and you put them both side by side, they will be incapable of distinguishing between the two in terms of real value, and that which satisfies most immediately will be what they take and put in their mouth. And this is as far forward as they think. And now we are the same. We cannot distinguish between that which is actually valuable and that which is an immediate satisfaction.
모두 세단들이 일이 당연한도 근데 대화 춘준직당 대화 친부직 지부적 투야지 미유다 간다 상아도 로종 냠내 지야도 강가로 단단하도 뭐 고대당 선 로마자들 아우디 용구 말에 그때 인식 말 이마체야 도바사야 되게 좀 하고 싶어서 이내 된데 말에서 빼는 당한다 단다도 협상 춘주지다 친부진 지부제부 지과해서 근데 미기 마동설을 보면 밀len 망고지샤 미기 동설을 보면 동다지 샤이나 당어서 미기 마동설 보면 거기 밀len 찍들다 미기 동설을 보면 동다지인데 지부제 투어거라 거기 밀len 찍들하나 다 수준수는 가그러와 동다지라고래 밀len지라고 싫어 협상 치고 뒤로 뭐라도 간다 진배기 냠내 지야돼서 아니 딱 간다 타마타마데 랑이 때와 토베 간다 거기 단독 꿀lun기 차네 랑이 때와 톰비우치도 땅게 요마데 타마 가르나 예 탐지 대화로 거도야 랑 대화 탈도 뭐 토베기 탑 지도라네 먼저 다들로 장게 여러 와서 뭐 어디서
Between that which is dissatisfactory and that which is satisfactory, we must cause a revolution so that we experience a satisfactory and don't remain bound to the dissatisfactory. And as we have yet to exercise ourselves, condition our thought in such a way that we can even conceive of such a revolution, we are left in disbelief and incredulous when an exchange or a reprioritization is recommended as it is here. The reprioritization being between self-identification, self-preoccupation, and concern for others. But the one leads to less contentment, the other to the greater contentment. Now it's no different than when a person is told there are many millions here in waiting for you, and here's $1,000, it's in your hand. If you decline the $1,000 in your hand, you'll have the millions of dollars that are unseen to you, but they're there. And it's a foolish person who, wanting the millions, will take the thousands. And one must become exercised in such a way that they become capable of making such an exchange, seeing the unseen profit of doing so. And so the contentment, the profit ultimately is that all sentient beings will know contentment, and so too will each one of us.
뭐야 이제 세단다 로종 냠내 생일이 단다 그래서 간다 하게 세미나 고바테 게 치수 직체 아니 이거는 수수께서 칼레 세미나 공부나시 아니 그 정도르치에 두치는 칼레 맞고 람산 용토야 되는데 미주 말했어 엔데링 대응도 진짜 대샤 아니 됐어요 직로종 거로도 도바사야 되게 되고 같은데 내가 데스케제 지하면 실에 제외이나 아니 데스 세르라와요 제가 저한테는 데스를 해서
In training the mind in this way, of first importance is in gaining the first rough familiarity and impression with the attitude. And then of importance too is to begin to behave in a way informed by that new impression, with the new understanding from that impression. Now, there may be doubts, and when we use our Q&A to clear things up, I think it's useful, so we can use the time that remains for our Q&A.
Oh, yeah.
So if there's anything that's unclear, please ask.
Yeah.
Nangdo mirung hope gyur Nangdu mirung pokpe gyur yang gyur. Nangdu karichini mirung ware lamna. Oh, sorry. Oh. There's a verse in Madhyamaka Avatara.
Land Kadumi to Carson the Kang Jabacham.
No.
And it is any day the Kajijor,
This particular verse follows from some argumentation that preceding argument is really required, and maybe this isn't the moment for that. Let's see if there are any other questions.
Just curiously, thinking about it, an act of generosity. If our mind is habituated to being selfish, and if we're our own object, if we're our own object of our mind in that selfishness, what should be the object of our generosity be? If we're thinking of another person, do we hold that person in our mind? Do we hold their wish? Do you understand what I mean?
Jimba Musu Tang Sambala, what's a woman Dr. Zimbe Lodi home de Oroa, and the Dr. Zimbe Lodi Zimbe Yudi Da Koran Roa. Da and Jimba Musu Tang Sambala. Dr. Zimbe Lodi Odi the current Shurochi, de Karalavire. Jimba Tang Zambala, Hangway you, Yamina. Oh, Tangway you Karishagores, Penani, Jimba Tang Zambalani, Mi Shemba Chiki, Susu, Miklams to Kogoreang, Yamina, Chitan did it, Hongi Tiwit the Bay, Nimbodo, Karshuruji. That is in Lodi, Zimbe Yudi, Davre, and the Jimbatang do, and the Jimbatang Sa, Skarre, Shin, Labna, and the Ganges mix Karela mix Gogre, Yamana.
The Comata Chibaloni is Gorwa. Chibaloni is Gorwa. Penna Longju Longin, Longju Tangora, Lucoyin, Lu Tangora. And Geza Goyena gets a tongue to a was. What's the time they will long to get that shit. Thanks at the long for carry long carry the color there. That the change is that's not it. Then he tongue to some but forget Simba long for David Simon is tongue to a long per quarter. And the tongue call a pember cord, present quarter, the gate has not tongue or also was number.
So the person of the other in need is required. What's given is the body, resources, roots of virtue, and they're given to a particular individual, that person. The individual, the one practicing the generosity is the self, oneself practicing the generosity. And one gives animated to satisfy the wish of, to fulfill, to bring about whatever is needed by that individual. So this other is needed, this other person. other individual.
동선 좋아. 그 전주 생각이 하나 전주의 집에 전주 생각이 집에 다야지. 동선 좋아서 지어다. 동은 선바 좋아서. 동은 선바 좋아서 좀 더 간다지 놓고 가리 되거나 실제 투가. 그런 게 제야야 편이 가제 편이 매버. 그 셈네 대야 도난 요바. 뭐 잘라 제일 먼저 가리는 진투가 요바. 어떤지 차진 거라서
And the measure of the completion of the paramita of generosity is the full completion of liberality of thought, such that facing any wish, any desire by another, in another, one instinctually gives without a moment's reflection, without a moment's reluctance, whatever is required, whatever it is in resources, whatever it is in wealth. But you might rephrase your question so that I can get a little more purchase on it.
Yeah, it's okay. I think that's better. I think I'm thinking differently.
근데 진짜 진바보랑 이유신 농보조래 그게 뭐라
No, yeah, interesting.
진바보 맞지 진짜 제들 르롱주도 게다체 집었다 땅유들은 농보 그 롱주고니를 롱주 아니 르고니를 르 아니 갖고 그 농보 되봐 그 되봐 있는 데를 친구로 어떻게
In the act of generosity, the individual who gives that which is given, resources, the body, roots of virtue, and a recipient, all, the one who would receive the body, the resources, the roots of virtue, all three of these are required. Pengarang ke gyur chetan de ting maso. Kong de siwa de tes nyembo de ne yabu gyur to maso.
그것도 막 가려져 가지고
Lin de nama de tata de tuk de tata tukso.
얘는 신박하다.
Any other?
집에 냠네. tes 소나 그래도 집에 냠네 생 지난 제 두에도 두성도 민두성도 스스로다 그래서 소한테 더
No, as you hear of what the practice of generosity entails, what do you feel? Do you feel as though is it imaginable or not? What sort of feeling do you get?
집에 냠네 생이 타다가서 뭐 먹으면 집에 냠네 깔래 칸도 하고 좋았어. 요지 검사는 집에 냠네 벌써 신박이 냠네 봐야 됐어.
Now, until we are familiar with the attitude it entails, until we are rehabituated to that, it will seem incredibly difficult. But then with increased familiarity, then it will become easy, such that the paramita of generosity is comparatively easy when compared to the other perfections.
담보 집에 냠네 토베 모두 싸 냠네 체는 싸 담보 토비 집에 벌지게 냠네 체라고 토베 가서 싸 니버 토비 지금 벌지 일단 담보도 집에 벌지게 냠네 토고를 해서 싸 담보 토바다 아니 집에 벌지게 냠네 토고 싸 담보 토비에 집에 땅하고 왕 토바 어디서 차고 해서
So it is when achieving the first Bodhisattva Bhumi, one achieves the ability to practice generosity. And then when one mounts the second Bodhisattva Bhumi, one gains the power for the perfection of ethical discipline, and so on.
뭐든지 딱 근데 동랭이 냠네 동랭이게 빼면 공사 동화의 렘바스 좀 동화스도 장게 류를 주서게다 봤다. 렘바스도 신지 아니 디버치베 신지 셰비 디바 디베트고 두메 이주수라는 줄 렘바스. 어떤 래 동의 렌세 동랭이 제비자게 어떻게 해서
And in exchanging, the exchange is one's body, resources, roots of virtue, which are given to others in exchange for that which one voluntarily takes, which is others' negativities that result in their suffering. This is the exchange. And ordinarily in breathing and practicing exchanging self and others, one exhales well-being for others and inhales taking in the suffering of others. No, then subo yaho tende ni yena tende kat Pardon, sur ten and such Now, when one does wind exercises joined with the meditation, exchanging self and others, one will find that there are many wind exercises. They'll come up as a section apart that we will consider, and there are various visualizations that go along with the wind exercises, and then they come up again in the context of the mantrayana too. But as a person who is healthy physically will find that they can respire a full respiration cycle, one inhalation and its exhalation, that in a minute happens naturally, perhaps 16 times. And as it is, then when one visualizes or imagines the inhalation drawing in the non-virtues that will cause all the discontents known to other sentient beings, that these are all drawn in the inhalation, and then one's own virtues of all sorts are in an act of generosity, then in the exhalation given to sentient beings in this respiration, this exercise of the winds, one is exchanging self and others. And so then if one meditates, does this wind exercise for 10 minutes, 160 times self and other has been exchanged. Then if one does this, one's familiarity with the outlook, the attitude will increase. One will grow more sensitive and more familiar, and that familiarity will grow very extensive, very expansive.
뭐든지 제가 샘생이 꼭가 샘이 유된 거랑 샘생이 아마도 추를 빼지 않은 송거 추디 녀샤나 우르다샤나 그 녀과차는 뱀 배주 다음에 그 지금에 이제 제가 왔어 추디 그 많이 오지 두고 샤샤나 아니 백상만 당만 대리로 되나 샘디 그 간다 가져 겁네 거기 공부하고 땡샤나 아니 추디 마주가나 장마 요하나 집에 샘 장마 되고요 샘디 그 거기 디치마도나 배주 땅마도나 아니 충격과 나지 요 근데 배자는 송거래 송
And this is the quality of the mind, that it is compared to water, that when turbid, when murky, when filled with contaminants, cannot be used. It isn't useful. It isn't clear. It isn't transparent, and it isn't useful. The mind similarly grows familiar as water set aside that can have the impurities settle out so that the water then becomes clear and may be used. So may the mind become familiar and become useful and become clear.
오이 근데 땅도 단다다 돈len 생에도 그가 수수 셈나 콤바트는 야매 치야레스 만도 칸시 남산들의 차를 소야 소초조 차초조 근데 요 말세다 코 셈나 찍고 니고 수 검전 근데야 소거를 제가 내내 야매 치야 개침버레스 안들어가서 대샤만은 송송
In exchanging self and other, the increase in the sensitivity and familiarity of the mind with the attitude is a gradual, bit by bit process. It's not like the mind isn't like an object that breaks suddenly and is fixed suddenly, breaks suddenly, is fixed suddenly, but bit by bit, its sensitivity and familiarity is exercised and increased. So with that, then we will conclude the class for today.
만다는 먼저 진박 땅에 편유되니 그래서 시콘도 시험은 진박 땅에 편유되다 아니 마음 발라 당기 딱 이제 탐지기 되박강 투야 여박에 아니 노롱주에다 또 랑기 때 마음 발라 산제니 산제기 신감 주비야 아니 지금 심지에 덜 탈신 뭐 요한테도 배 가서 용나들이 롱주에다 쏘가 용투야 가가 집에 집을 차려 그랬어요 집어디 아까 딱 한테 당고 동네기 냠내 잡기네 집에 냠내 모수 다 뒤에 집어들 근데 마음마다 산지기다 산지 아주 산지기 신감스 쌓으신 거지 다 간다 유 매번 용하여 번 유여벌 유디 다다 집에 냠내 제발 때는 용을 해서 오는
As I've described, the result, personal result of the practice of generosity is that in the future, one comes to inherit that which fulfills the every wish of sentient beings. In a Buddha field, when one has achieved enlightenment, then in that Buddha field, all the resources required by sentient beings that their wishes be fulfilled are present, and so too is one as a Buddha in the Buddha field as a result of generosity. And so the exchange of self and others, then the actual practice of generosity, and then the result, that result, the Buddha field, the resources for consumption there, have as their cause generosity.
그것도 아니 마음 저기 수고지 마음 진짜 강 다다모스 사람들 집 동네기 장주 선배기 냠내 집에기 냠내 동네 셰보다 때네 아니 다지 거기 더블링 시디 용하다 아니 지 지된 거 마도 내음시야 근데 뭐야 저거 나무선 어디서
And so in our dedication prayer, then the virtues of contemplating exchange and equalization of self and other the mind of enlightenment, generosity, all these virtuous practices, may they bring peace to the world and may they bring an end to the pandemic.
Yama sumbe tsera kundu yang jambe yang ji zime ji song. Tembe rinpa kusang lamji sho nye ne rube gena nye ji. Ragi shishin tobe lamji ne shucha sewe chambe tabge. Rowe yiji mba seje ne gewe temba yungi. Temba rinjin shoje ma gyabang jabyan nyambar gyurwe shode. Ninje chenbu yiro gyaba yi nende leje sewar chebar sho. Seje gyawe menjo chele leju chanju namgi rinpe gyang. Hadu namgi yira bede yi gyawe zeba ringu gyang gyurwe. Lazan rübe tügen rüce gege sece medan nime. Sera kundu geve nabayi namda cevara magir. Kanze tebo jola cücüce suje rüba tümba deyi. Kuden nage tabu rücece dayi gazu çugun gagü ki.
From my two collections, vast the space that I have amassed, from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose mind's wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of the paths, the complete teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings. With the points of the path as I have discerned them, may I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I offer this treasure of happiness to aid all sentient beings. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by following the complete graduated path to enlightenment and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings have eliminated adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths, never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere.
Ebara Jesu Losam Drabai Tembe Nipo Rindu Seje Sho Panre Trawe Kurve Shingante Penda Deva Malu Jompe Jere Sewan Tenzeng Gyatso Ki Shabe Sidi Baraku Dengu Tabe Bawo Jeda Jemba Dang Kundu Sambo Neyan Deshin Teta Gungi Jesu Dalu Ji Gewa Dida Tamje Ratu Tuzun Shebe Gewa Tamje Ge Moa Kala Chotu Ngaba Daji Gewe Tawa Diguya Zambu Shije Ratu Kanju Zemjo Rimbo Je Maje Bana Gegir Yeva Nyamba Meba
I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losam Drakpa which shine forever. In the land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Jinners and Gyatso, please remain until cyclic existence is ended. Just as the brave Manjushri and the Mantabhadra too realize things as they are, also I dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these fruits of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious Lord God ones of the three times, so that it might perform the noble vows. May the supreme true Bodhicitta that is not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more.
Good night.